The Nevada sun blazed overhead, a relentless white-hot eye in an endless cerulean sky. Danielle Caldwell squinted against the harsh light reflecting off the red sandstone formations, the heat a physical presence that seemed to suck the very moisture from her pores. At 29, she'd grown accustomed to these weekend pilgrimages of grief and stubborn hope. Her hiking boots, scuffed and worn, crunched against the loose gravel as she paused to take a swig from her water bottle. The lukewarm liquid did little to combat the dry heat. "Danny, we should probably think about heading back," called out Marcus, one of the regular volunteers. His face was flushed red beneath his baseball cap, sweat staining the collar of his shirt. Danielle looked around at the small, dedicated group. 7 people total today, down from the 15 who used to show up when the case was still fresh. 4 years had a way of wearing down hope, transforming it from a burning fire into a bed of stubborn, glowing embers. What had begun as desperate searches for survivors had long since become grim expeditions seeking the barest minimum of closure. "Yeah, you're right," she replied, her voice raspy. 4 years ago, her sister Marissa, 7.5 months pregnant, had disappeared into this vast, indifferent landscape with her husband, Ethan. Danielle pulled out her GPS device to mark their search area for the day. It was a systematic, methodical grid, an attempt to impose order on the chaos that had consumed her life. The police had long since relegated the case to their cold files, but Danielle couldn't let go. Marissa was her only remaining family, the last link to a life before the car accident that had claimed their parents 6 years prior. When they finally reached the parking lot, the group dispersed. The digital clock on her phone read 11 a.m. as she pulled it from her pocket, finally getting signal bars after hours in the communication dead zone of the deeper canyon. Her screen lit up with a barrage of notifications. Her heart rate spiked when she saw they were all from the same source, Detective Raymond Chen from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. She hit the call back button. "Danielle, thank God." His familiar baritone filled her ear. "I've been trying to reach you." "I'm sorry, Detective, I was out in Red Rock, no signal. What's happened?" There was a pause. "We've had a development in your sister's case. A hiker found something this morning that we believe belongs to Marissa." The water bottle slipped from Danielle's hand, splashing across the hot asphalt. "What kind of evidence?" she managed, her voice a whisper. "I'd prefer to discuss this in person. Can you drive to the White Rock Hills Loop area? I'll send you the exact coordinates." "Yes," she said, her voice shaking. "I'll leave right now." Her friends, Sarah and Marcus, immediately offered to come. A small convoy of weary volunteers formed, leaving the iconic red rocks behind for the paler limestone formations of a less traveled part of the canyon. As they approached the coordinates, Danielle spotted the cluster of police vehicles. Detective Chen met them, his expression grim. "The site is about a mile from here," he said, leading them to a police SUV. As they hiked the remaining distance, he fell into step beside her. "I want to prepare you for what we've found. It's not good news, Danielle." She nodded, her legs feeling like lead. They approached a temporary canopy where a man stood near a German shepherd. He was Malcolm Brandt, the hiker who'd made the discovery. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. "Bella here. She ran ahead and came back with something." Danielle's gaze dropped to the evidence table. Her breath caught. Bones, unmistakably human, pale and weathered by years of exposure. "It was a radius bone," Malcolm continued gently. "From a forearm. I used to be a paramedic. I knew what it was." Detective Chen guided Danielle closer. "After Mr. Brandt's call, we sent our forensic team out. There was a severe windstorm last night, probably the worst we've had all year. We believe it scattered remains that had been protected until now." Danielle forced herself to look. But it was the next piece of evidence that made her knees buckle. A tibia, with the glint of surgical hardware still attached. "You mentioned in your initial report that Marissa had knee surgery," Detective Chen said, his voice soft. "Yes," Danielle whispered. "A skiing accident. She had pins and a plate put in. The serial numbers on the hardware match her medical records," the detective confirmed. "We're still waiting for DNA, but it's her." A broken sob escaped her lips. "Oh God, it's really her." Sarah wrapped an arm around her, supporting her weight. But Detective Chen wasn't finished. His expression grew even more somber. "Danielle, there's more. We found additional remains. Smaller bones, found in a crevice in the cliff face. The implication hit her like a physical blow. The baby, Marissa's baby. The forensic anthropologist believes they're consistent with a late-term fetus," he continued. "Some bones show evidence of scavenger activity." The hope she had nurtured for 4 years crumbled into dust. "What about Ethan?" she managed. "Did you find—" "No," he replied. "No remains that we can definitively identify as male. The search team is still working, but so far nothing." "How can that be?" "They were together." "That's one of many questions we need to answer," the detective said, his tone carefully neutral. "Without evidence of Mr. Voss's remains, we have to consider all possibilities." "You think Ethan did this?" Danielle's voice rose in disbelief. "That's insane. He loved her. He was a surgeon. He saved lives. He would never—" "In cases like this, we have to examine every angle. The fact that only your sister's remains have been found, that they were concealed rather than simply lost. These are factors we can't ignore." "It doesn't make sense," she insisted. "He wasn't an experienced hiker. That's why I told them not to go, especially with Marissa so pregnant." "People can surprise us," he replied gently. "The remains were found beneath that overhang, partially protected. It's possible they've been there the entire time until last night's storm." The journey back to the city passed in a blur. At the station, after a DNA swab was taken from her cheek, Detective Chen led her to his office. "Tell me about that Sunday again," he said, opening a thick file. "October 14th, 2018. Danielle took a deep breath. "Marissa called me around 8 a.m. She was excited. Said Ethan had the day off and they wanted to go for a hike. I immediately told her no. She was 36 weeks pregnant, Detective. But they went anyway. Marissa could be stubborn. She said her obstetrician doctor, Morse, had told her to stay active. She said walking would help position the baby for delivery." Her voice caught. "I suggested the mall, somewhere with air conditioning, but Ethan had been working long hours. They wanted one last adventure together before the baby came. For the next 2 hours, they went over every detail." "I know this is difficult," Chen said, closing the file. "But we have to consider that the missing person might be responsible." "You won't find anything," Danielle said firmly, "because there's nothing to find." "I hope you're right," he said. "In the meantime, be careful. When cold cases heat up like this, it can trigger unexpected reactions. If Ethan is alive, he might try to make contact. Or if someone else was involved, they might feel threatened." Back in the suffocating quiet of her own home, Danielle collapsed onto the sofa. Her gaze fell on the photos on the shelves, a smiling gallery of ghosts. On impulse, she opened her laptop and searched for Malcolm Brandt. His public profile was filled with photos of hiking and his dog, Bella. One post from 3 weeks ago caught her eye, a picture of a slice of lavender honey cake from a small cafe. The mention of cake triggered a flood of memories of Marissa, a gifted baker whose house always smelled of vanilla and butter. Danielle decided she would bake that cake for Malcolm, a small token of gratitude. But first, she needed Marissa's recipe book. She knew it was at their house, hidden away. The 10-minute walk through their quiet neighborhood felt eerie now. The house itself sat silent, a time capsule of a life interrupted. She let herself in, the air musty and still. Upstairs, she found the hidden cabinet behind the mirror above their bed. Inside was the leather-bound notebook embossed with Marissa's name. As she pulled it out, a sound from outside made her freeze, a car engine idling. Peering through the curtains, she saw a dark sedan at the curb. 3 men emerged, approaching the house with a purposeful stride. The one in front wore a distinctive brown fedora. She heard them at the front door, not knocking, but working at the lock. The metallic scratching sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. She had to call for help, but she'd left her phone at home. Racing downstairs, her hip caught a decorative vase on a hall table. It shattered on the hardwood floor with a deafening crash. The scratching at the lock stopped. Through the window, she saw the men backing away, returning to their car. The man in the fedora turned slightly and she gasped. In profile, the slope of his shoulders, the way he carried himself. It looked like Ethan. The car sped away. She found a broom and dustpan, the mundane task calming her racing heart. Who were those men? If one was Ethan, why break into his own house? She reached for the kitchen landline, but the line was dead. Back upstairs, she grabbed the recipe book. Her eyes fell on a framed photo on the shelf. Ethan at a medical conference wearing the exact same brown fedora. A chill ran down her spine. Clutching the book and the photo, she locked up and hurried home, every shadow a potential threat. The moment her front door clicked shut, Danielle dialed Detective Chen. 3 men tried to break into Marissa's house, she said, the words tumbling out. One of them, I think he might have been Ethan. Did you get a clear look? No, just his profile, but the hat, the way he moved. I'll send a patrol unit to check the area, he sighed, but I can't justify posting an officer there indefinitely. Later that evening, Danielle drove to the grocery store. In the parking lot, she saw them again. The black sedan parked at the gas station. The 3 men, including the one in the fedora. She ducked down, heart hammering. A 4th man wearing veterinary scrubs jogged over to them with a small cooler. They all climbed into the sedan. Every rational part of her brain screamed at her to call Chen. But a different impulse took hold. If that was Ethan, she had to know. Before she could second-guess herself, she started her car and followed. They headed west on Highway 160, deeper into the desert. Maintaining cover became difficult. She fumbled for her phone, dialing Chen. You're following them? His voice was sharp with disbelief. Danielle, turn around right now. This is dangerous. Okay, she said, finally conceding. You're right. She had just completed a U-turn when headlights flared in her rearview mirror. The black sedan had also turned and was approaching fast. Oh, God, she breathed, flooring the accelerator. They saw me. Her Honda was no match for them. The sedan pulled alongside, the man in the fedora gesturing for her to pull over. She ignored him. The sedan swerved into her lane, forcing her toward the sandy shoulder. She chose the sand, her car fishtailing to a stop. Before she could move, they were on her. The safety glass of her window exploded inward. Hands dragged her out, zip-tied her wrists, and stuffed a gag in her mouth. She got a clear look at the man in the fedora. It wasn't Ethan. They bundled her into their car. Told you boys it was her from the news, the man in the fedora, Rico, said. Saw her from the window inside the house, watching us. They blindfolded her. The journey seemed endless. When they finally stopped, they pulled her into a large warehouse that blazed with fluorescent light. It was some kind of makeshift hospital. In one room, she glimpsed figures lying motionless on beds. In another, someone in scrubs checked monitors. They forced her onto a bed, securing her wrists with restraints. Welcome to our little operation, Rico said, removing the gag. He backhanded her when she screamed. Any word from Chad? Did he take care of her car? Should be dumped by now, another man, Max, replied. Where did you get that hat? Danielle whispered. Rico's smile widened. Don't worry about it. Go get our surgeon. This worked out even better than we planned. They wheeled her bed into a makeshift operating room. The doors banged open and 2 guards dragged in a filthy, malnourished figure. It was Ethan. He was alive. He moved mechanically to the scrub sink, but when he turned and saw who lay on the table, his face went white. Danny, he choked out. Please, she managed, her voice weak from a drug they'd injected. Ethan, no. He whirled on Rico. Absolutely not. I'm not doing this. I am not operating on my sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law? Rico feigned surprise. Funny story. We just wanted to grab your ledger and insurance papers from your house for some leverage. But then this one was there, watching. And the stupid woman followed us. She makes much better leverage, don't you think? You bastard, Ethan seethed. The boss, Dominic, is getting impatient, Doc, Rico continued. You start operating again or little Danny here becomes our next donor, your choice. Ethan's shoulders slumped in defeat. Fine. But she doesn't get touched. They moved Danielle to a wheelchair in the corner. Another victim, a young unconscious woman, was brought in. Time to earn your keep, Doc, Rico said. And you're going to teach our new recruit here. He gestured to the man in veterinary scrubs. Meet Dr. Polson. Ethan began his work, a man with no choices left. A muscular man dragged Danielle to a stark, concrete cell. Won't be long, he said with a leering grin. Boss likes the new ones broken and proper. The door slammed shut. The drug was wearing off. On the bed, her hand brushed against something hidden under the pillow. A pen. Tucked between the mattress and the frame were folded sheets of paper. Ethan's handwriting, their wedding vows, and letters, all addressed to Marissa. The lock clicked. The man entered carrying leather straps and a riding crop. Time for your breaking-in session. Please, she said, playing up her fear. I won't cause trouble. That's what they all say. He reached for her and she spat in his face. He backhanded her, sending her sprawling. As he knelt over her, reaching for the straps, her hand found the pen. In one swift motion, her hand came up, driving the pen deep into his left eye. His scream was inhuman. As he writhed on the floor, she lunged for the gun holstered at his hip. He grabbed her ankle. I'll kill you, he roared. She twisted, brought the gun around and fired. The bullet tore through his thigh. The room was soundproofed. No one came. She shot the lock on the door and ran. In the green glow of emergency lighting, she navigated the corridors. A stairwell appeared. She just made it to the next landing when strong arms wrapped around her. Don't shoot, a man's urgent whisper stopped her. I'm a friend. Ethan sent me. He was thin and haggard. My name is Tom. Ethan saved my life 7 days ago. We've been planning to escape. I saw what happened on the security cameras. We need to move now. She hesitated, then nodded. Tom led the way to a motor pool. They climbed into his old Ford truck and drove to the security checkpoint. The guard waved them through. They were out. It's organ harvesting, Tom said grimly as they sped through the desert. Dominic Torino runs it. They grab people who won't be missed. Ethan's been forced to do the surgeries for 4 years. At a gas station, they called 911. Danielle explained the situation, then asked them to contact Detective Chen. Within 20 minutes, the highway filled with SWAT vans and patrol cars running without lights or sirens. A mobile command unit was set up. Captain Torres debriefed them, assuring them they would get everyone out. Danielle and Tom watched from a patrol car as the tactical teams moved in. For nearly 40 minutes, the sounds of combat echoed across the desert. Then silence. Suspects were marched out, Rico, Max the veterinarian, but Dominic was not among them. Then she saw him, Ethan, walking slowly, flanked by 2 officers. "I need to go to him," she said. She scrambled from the car. They were 10 feet apart when a figure emerged from a separate administrative building. A man in an expensive suit, guns in both hands. Dominic Torino. He fired wildly. Ethan's face contorted with 4 years of rage. He charged, tackling Dominic from his blind side. They wrestled on the asphalt. Ethan managed to get one of the guns, pressing it to Dominic's temple. "You killed her!" Ethan's voice was raw. "You killed my wife and my baby." "Go ahead, Doc," Dominic taunted, "and pull the trigger." For a long moment, Danielle thought he would. Then the fight drained out of him. "Number, I've had enough death because of you. You don't get to make me a killer, too." Officers swarmed in, restraining Dominic. Danielle rushed to Ethan as he collapsed to his knees. "That was incredibly stupid," she said, wrapping her arms around him. "And incredibly brave." Later, in the back of an ambulance, the whole story spilled out. "I had a gambling problem," Ethan began, his voice hollow. "By 2018, I owed $300,000. I didn't know it was Dominic's organization. That day at Red Rock, his men found us. They demanded payment. When I couldn't pay, they threatened Marissa. She panicked, tried to call 911. His voice broke. Dominic shot her, point blank, said it was a lesson. Then they brought me here, told me I could work off my debt as their surgeon." "And you've been here ever since?" Detective Chen asked, having joined them. 4 years, Ethan nodded. "I told myself I deserved it. But a few weeks ago on our anniversary, I dreamed of her. She told me she was waiting, but I had to be a good man first. That's when I stopped cooperating." "And you got caught in the middle," Chen said to Danielle. As they prepared to leave for the station, Danielle sat beside Ethan in a patrol car. "Marissa came to you in a dream and offered forgiveness," she said softly. "If she can do that, then I can try too." He stared out at the desert darkness. "I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make amends." Through the rear window, she saw Tom nod at her in understanding. The sunrise was still hours away, but for the first time in 4 years, they were moving towards something other than darkness. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but in the back of that patrol car, 2 broken people held on to the possibility that healing, however distant, might finally begin.